today, and also I just want to give a thank you for all of you who have just put all the time and effort in through all these meetings this year to get to the point where we are right now. So I'd like to begin with public comment.
Sarah Kelly Palmer.
Hi, my name is Sarah Kelly Palmer, and I live at 272 Willow Ridge Lane in North Kingstown. And I'm a parent of an 8th grader, soon to be 9th grader, which is crazy. But I'm here, I had the opportunity to attend the parent forum about the health curriculum that happened, it seems like quite some time ago now. And I just want to simply say that I put my trust into Dr. Clark, the director of curriculum, as well as all the health educators and the physical education teachers who reviewed the curriculum. I got a chance to review the proposed revisions to the curriculum, and I think that's it's important for all of our students to have an inclusive and comprehensive health education curriculum. One of the reasons my family and I moved here was for the high quality education, and I think that's an important part. So I support the revisions.
Thank you, Sarah. Diane Hill?
Hi, Diane Hill, 40 Heritage Road, North Kingstown. I'm a licensed independent clinical social worker. My work has been with children and adolescents, full-time as a school counselor at a private school, and also part-time in private practice. And so I'm here in support of the Health Smart curriculum that was talked about at the last meeting. I think that the children of the 21st century, they need to hear about all the issues that impact health, including social media, substance abuse, and sexuality education. What I have found is that children are very open to being inclusive. They are not threatened by being inclusive. And that I think over time, my profession and social psychology has evolved, just especially with sexuality and gender identity and expression. Back in the day, there was a time when homosexuality was classified as a mental disorder by the American Psychiatric Association. Of course, that changed, and now we see that there is variation in human sexuality, and that's normal. So I think that today, gender expression and gender identity, the consensus among psychology and psychiatry is that gender identity and gender expression is a social construct as well as a matter of biology. And so I think our thinking has evolved, as all professions have over time, and I'm supportive of having an inclusive and up-to-date curriculum for our students in North Kingstown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like we have another. Ramona, do you want to speak?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Is this mic on, or does it need to be on, or are you recording this time, or is there no recording? Are meeting minutes being taken, or
We
no?
reported last time, unfortunately, there was a technical problem, and I believe that's been rectified this time.
Oh, good.
I don't
Yes.
know, but I'm
Good.
hoping that it is.
It is being recorded
Okay.
with audio.
So I don't think it's any secret that I'm completely opposed to this very very, very controversial Health Smart curriculum. And I'm opposed to it. I'm opposed to it in a couple of different respects, okay? I'm a mother of 4 children who are 21st century children, as you say. And quite frankly, they looked at some of those lessons and they were horrified. I'm gonna say right now that the majority of parents and children are intimidated and too afraid to speak out for good reason, right? We know what happens. But I will say this, that I've looked extensively at that Health Smart curriculum, okay? And it is not about sex ed, teaching sex ed, because nobody's opposed to teaching sex ed. It is about the ambiguous and problematic content of these lessons. They are dangerous in the wrong hands, in the wrong circumstances, this isn't a sex therapy, group therapy experience. We're talking about minors who will not only be embarrassed to participate in some very, very odd and weird lessons, but it could subject children and open the door to child abuse or sexual abuse, okay? And I think the fact that you feel that your political ideology, your belief in sex education between adults and children is the right, the right course of action, I don't think that that is correct at all. I think we need to have evidence-based, science-based education and not this bizarre, political, highly politicized content, okay? So I'm just gonna read just a couple of the hundreds of very bizarre and dangerous lessons, okay? And I'm gonna say this one thing, that if anything happens to a child, or if any harm comes to a child because of these very bizarre scenarios that you're putting kids into, it's gonna be on the record, okay? And you will all be responsible for that. So I just wanna read a couple, okay? They all have very politically correct titles, but here's an example of 2 kids with a teacher discussing right about a time you felt awkward or embarrassed that you didn't know how to do something. You can share with your partner and write your thoughts down. Exactly why are kids discussing things that they may want to do or not want to do with each other in class? How is that educational? And as a mother, I don't want my children talking to adults about their perceived ideas of sexual thoughts about their own sexuality. It's not appropriate. Here's another one that provides a scenario for a boy who's at a party and whose girlfriend might be prostituted for $50. Here's another one exploring identity, where children are exploring, multiple sex partners, pansexuality, all kinds of bizarre, stupid political ideology that has sort of, we've seen come up in the last couple of years. And they're promoting and talking about multiple partners. In one case, Henry had sex with his boyfriend in the morning and was concerned about his partner having sex with one of his friends in the afternoon. Why is that okay for kids to talk about in class?
You can finish.
That's what I'd like to know. We've been asking that since the beginning of the year. It's none of anybody's business, certainly not an adult's, and it's not fair to put children, young girls and young boys, by the way, not bodies with a vulva and not bodies with a penis. They are girls and boys. It is not fair to put them in classroom situations where they're being made to discuss bizarre, whatever perceptions you might have about a child's sexuality. This is not science-based.
Thank you.
Could you say your name and address, because I know everyone else did? Aren't we supposed to have that on the record?
I wrote it down.
Ramona
Oh.
Bessinger.
Is that fine?
What's that?
I thought you were supposed to say your name and where you live before you
Oh.
talk in a public meeting, that's why I was asking.
I believe it's Ramona Bessinger, correct?
No, you
It
said
is
you wrote that, I just didn't know if that was
Ramona.
like the rules to make sure it was
It is.
Are you
Robert's
serious?
rules of order. Oh, no, I just meant like sometimes when things don't happen, then they don't count them and like you
Oh,
don't,
who cares? Okay?
you wanna be
Okay,
heard,
that's
so that's
enough.
what I meant.
That's enough.
No, that's enough with you.
we're gonna proceed now.
Ramona, would you mind giving your address?
I'm not giving my address.
Okay. All right.
Why don't we go ahead with the, discussion?
Okay. We can, Lydia, do you have any questions or anything to discuss regarding the curriculum?
No.
Question, I mean, okay, all right, that's
I
fine.
think the best
If you
way to
have
do
any,
this is
yeah.
to make a motion and then see,
Okay.
see where we go from
Okay.
there, all right? There are two health curriculum that have been discussed over the past 3 months. One is the health source curriculum, the other one is the Glencoe curriculum. There have been presentations regarding both. So I'm going to move at this time that the committee have a vote as to which curriculum to recommend to the full school committee. So I move that we consider voting either for the Glencoe curriculum or the Health Smart curriculum.
Can I say
Is there a-
something first, cause there was some,
Yeah, well, we're gonna have a
inaccuracy.
discussion.
There's gonna be a
Right, right.
discussion.
We're all
We're
gonna
not-
get to discussion.
There will be discussion after
Yeah,
this.
I
Can I get a
understand.
second on the motion?
So the motion,
So we have a second?
Motion, for
Yeah.
but Sherry seconds.
Thank you. All right, let's open it up to discussion. Did you wanna start, Susanna?
Sure, so there were
Okay.
inaccuracies last time. So I wanna be clear, this isn't about teaching about sex ed. Both curriculums teach about sex ed, it's how it's being taught. Glencoe is evidence-based, research-based, academic presentation that I think parents will be very comfortable with. It was said that they did not have prepared lessons, and that was one of the teachers' concerns. That's not true. They come with prepared lessons that are modifiable. They have interactions. I sent some of you a slide right from Glencoe that says that, and it took me not very long to find that. So I'm a little concerned that that information was put forward. It was also said that, Glencoe did not address, online safety. That's not true. They do. Cyberbullying, safety online. So both of them address that. HealthSmart has raised many concerns with the parents, and if you went to the first forum, which I don't know if a lot of you were there, where parents were at, because it was a presentation where they could ask questions, actually hold the books and look at it, not a 3-minute discussion. They were appalled at the lessons, appalled. They don't want their children learning this way. There's another way to teach the material without getting into some of the lessons that Ms. Bessinger talked about. That's not appropriate. And as a nurse, I work with transgender patients. I've taken care of them. We do not call them bodies with a vulva. We do not refer to them as bodies with a penis. They are still males and females. And to call our children bodies with a vulvas and bodies with a vagina, I feel like it's abusive. That's so wrong. We need to teach children the truth. HealthSmart is not teaching children the truth. And I think you need to compromise. You have two curriculums. If you put two forward, they both meet the curriculum standards, why not go with the one that people aren't opposed to? Why are you pushing HealthSmart so hard? And I also have asked for the NK standard that aligns with teaching gender ideology. And I also wanna say, if you have a disagreement with anybody, the school committee, health curriculum, anything, guess what? Nobody talks to you. Nobody will answer my emails. You know what I mean? It's like, look at how you're all sitting. I'm here alone. Last meeting, it was me against everyone. How is that okay? Do you wonder why parents aren't here? Because they feel the same way I do. That's my comment.
Okay. Anybody else?
I do, I'm a
Sure.
parent, so I think you're wrong, I think parents also think differently. I will say last time I was shocked when it came up a body with a penis and a body with a vagina. I personally feel like if you at home say females have vaginas, males have penises, which I do at my house, my kids are not gonna even faze when you say that. But a child who might be confused or not sure of their gender, I think they'll very uncomfortable about it and they'll not include it. Like, and I also feel like it's not about what the parents need, it's about what's good for the kids.
You don't get to decide that.
Yeah, we're the
Well,
parents.
excuse
We
me,
Okay,
decide for the
you're not
children.
on this committee, so you're not.
I don't
allowed to speak.
care. You're
Okay,
talking to our children. You don't get to decide what's good for every
You're not, I'm a
child.
parent, and my children were adopted from DCYF. So I don't wanna hear
I
that.
don't care about that either.
Oh, well, I don't
okay?
care about you
Ramona,
either.
Ramona, that's
you're
enough.
not part of the discussion.
Yeah, but by using that
Please.
Yeah,
language,
can I
you're
finish,
erasing.
can I finish talking?
Please.
I didn't talk when you were talking.
Sure.
What I'm saying is, I think we're forgetting, and my kids are in elementary school and they talk about this stuff. I think the thing is, like, you want kids to feel comfortable no matter how they feel, and not for them to feel that they're wrong.
I
Every
don't
kid,
think
and that's
that's
what's
what
wrong with
makes
this
them
whole
comfortable.
society, is that no one can have a different opinion of something. Everyone's gotta be a certain way. And we're teaching our kids that. And I also strongly support the North Kingstown School Department. And if you don't feel like, if you wanna have this, I believe in public school, and the teachers that came last
I
time.
didn't say I didn't, and I didn't say I didn't support it.
Again,
Alright.
you know,
Susanna,
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 I'm
let
letting you speak the
Sharon
whole
speak.
time, I think that's very unfair
Well,
of
you're
you and you
insinuating it.
to,
Please.
no, I didn't say anything when you were talking. And that's the problem, I respect what you're saying. I wouldn't interrupt you, and I think you should have your opinion, and I should have mine, and everyone else should have theirs. I'm just saying, I also believe that the teachers in North Kingstown, like, they've gone to school to be teachers. They did a lot of time and effort going through all the curriculum to figure out what is best. And that's what they decided. So I just support that. And I truly, that's just how I feel. And I think everyone can have their own opinion, so I don't interrupt people when they're talking. Because that's the problem. Everyone should be able to give their opinion with no one else talking.
Would anyone like to give their opinion?
I wrote mine and then I'll free speak. So I wrote this yesterday before there were some more emails after that. So this is my own opinion before other emails came out afterwards. I spent time reviewing the curriculum that has been presented. I appreciate the time and effort put into this process to give concrete lessons involved in the curriculum being proposed for certain sections. I went on the websites of both platforms and reviewed to the best of my ability the information. I ultimately will not be supporting the Health Smart curriculum proposed for several reasons. One, I believe there should have been at least one more public forum on this health curriculum. There was a lot of turnout at the first one, and there were concerns. In addition, the video that was made of our last wellness meeting had no sound, and there has yet to be any minutes posted from the meeting. Although I did get them, but I really haven't a chance to look at them. There were many questions and answers given at that meeting, which could have been helpful. Secondly, there has been no compromise attempted. When given suggestions, such as piloting this program, which seems completely reasonable when people are voicing concerns, it was not taken. Other suggestions of creating a hybrid curriculum between both sources was suggested, and no action that I can see was taken on this. There have also been suggestions of creating an elective health class that could delve more into topics, which I also have seen no move towards. I am not okay with the absence of the words female and male reproductive systems. While I understand and appreciate the use of gender-neutral terms that are used, body with a vagina and body with a penis, I do not support these being the only words used in the curriculum that will be presented to our children. I do not think it is right to eliminate the use of female and male reproductive systems. These terms could be used simultaneously, but I could not find any reference to female or male at all in the Health Smart curriculum. I agree there should be compromise. I think people have strong opinions. I don't think we found the compromise. I'm sorry. I understand transgender, gender neutral, but there should also be a space for continuing the use of male and female. I do not understand, and if Dr. Clark wants to clarify, you said the slide decks were editable, but everything I saw in Health Smart talks about how it's a rigid curriculum where it's intended to have no changes because it's meant to be rigid and there's not meant to be changes. So I do not understand. If you could clarify what that means about the slide decks being editable or whatever, that would be understanding. We have not found the compromise, in my opinion. I respect both of your opinions. I think they're both valid. We need to find a compromise, and I don't think we've found it. And I think using a hybrid of some of Glencoe and some of Health Smart would be a compromise.
option too? Like, I would just.
That came up at the first.
No, I mean, like, could we vote that way to say, could we relook at, you know, like, having another forum, you know, is that an option? I guess is what I'm asking.
There's a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded. The reality is you can vote for one, or you can vote for the other, or you can abstain. This is an advisory vote. It's, in other words, it will be presented to the full school committee, and hopefully it will inform the school committee in terms of what it's going to do when it takes this issue up, and I think that may be as early as tomorrow.
So then the
So-
school committee would make the final, so
Yes.
really people, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Pam, thank you for what you had to say. I asked Dr. Clark to be here because I thought she might want to have an opportunity, or I would like her to have an opportunity to respond to this, because she's been the one who's been most involved with this over the last 3 or 4 months. I am gonna say something. I attended the February 8th curriculum forum at North Kingstown High School. There were people who were objecting to the Health Smart curriculum. Ms. Bessinger is one of them. Ms. Tingley is another. There were also plenty of people that pushed back the other way and were very interested in the Health Smart curriculum.
I
and
was
wanted to look at
surrounded
it.
by mom at that.
She was
Eating.
bullied and nobody did anything about
I
it.
You did
completely,
nothing.
I completely and flatly reject that assertion.
It's on
I was
video.
there.
It's on video, we have it on video.
I've seen it, and I don't believe that you were bullied.
I wasn't allowed to speak. You did not allow anyone to speak at that.
I stand by what I remember about
We
this.
have it on video.
Okay, well, that's fine, Ramona, I'm telling you, and frankly, I'm indulging you by making these, allowing you to make these remarks.
I'm a mother that has a child at a school here. Indulging me is not the thing to say to someone like me. Do you understand? We have concerns, and you are ignoring them.
Your
You don't
concerns have
answer
been
the
heard.
emails, you prevent people from being able to voice their reasonable concerns as, as parents who will be, have their children in front of this ridiculous curriculum. You've created this situation.
Can I ask a question, because my kids aren't in high school? Can you have your kids opt out of it?
Yes,
Okay.
the state law provides that you can opt your
For
children
no
out
reason,
of
like if you
this.
just didn't want them to hear any of
Yeah.
that, you can say,
No, the perception is that this is being forced on people.
that's
I
what I'm
don't
asking.
believe that it is, but, I would like to have Dr. Clark have an opportunity
Well,
to respond.
I do too, but I'd like everyone to just discuss what they wanna discuss and then
Okay.
hand it over to Jody to just,
That's fine.
respond to all.
I didn't mean to cut anybody
No,
off.
no,
if there's
no, I just
anybody else.
wanna, for all of us to get the information, with some continuity. So, would anyone else like to contribute to the discussion?
So,
I think I just
Oh,
heard a
okay.
pin drop.
so I had a sibling who came through the North Kingstown school system, and they started transitioning. This was back in the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, and it was a living hell for them. And when I hear things like bodies with a vulva, bodies with a gene, it's inclusive language. It doesn't
No, it's
eliminate
not.
the terms female and male. It doesn't. However, with that said, I think a piloting option or looking into, well, really a piloting option could be a good compromise going forward. The fact that you do have the opt-out, that's an option for parents too. However, I'm all for inclusive language. We did it with disabilities, which took 20 years for people to get that language in order in education. And I'm all for inclusivity with this too, because I've seen what happens when you alienate what is now becoming a growing population because people feel safer to come out. And I also do support the idea that the teachers that research this, they know what they're talking about. Now, I haven't researched it the way they have, because I'm at the elementary level and, I don't have the time to look at it as far as they did. I would support that they can reach the population the best with the Health Smart program. I would lean towards their thoughts on it, because they're the ones that have to teach it.
Where's their data
Thank you.
that they've collected on this
Ramona.
curriculum?
Ramona, what's the
Respect.
data? You spoke
Respect.
vaguely up there, and
I have all
you
the
screaming
lessons
out
and
until
the
you're
workbook.
heard, but nobody wants to
So
listen
where
to
is
you
this
anymore.
data that
Where
they
was
collected?
yours? You spoke vaguely, you didn't come up with any information.
You talked about teachers who
Ramona,
collected data.
Ramona, you scream
Where is
about
it?
everything.
Where is it? Where is this synopsis of this health smart curriculum? It
Ramona.
doesn't exist.
Ramona, I'm gonna remind you again, you're not part of
I-
the discussion.
Can I
Again,
make a
You
comment?
had
I
your
don't
time.
care. You have
You
not
had your time.
answered any of my emails.
Can I make a
Suzanne,
comment? Alright,
yes,
so
of course.
just a couple of things. The opt-out, well, it is an option for parents. I think just saying, well, your kid's gonna opt out of it, that's not a great decision for families. So that means, you know, my child's not gonna get help for the next 2 years, cause I can tell you if help.
Just on that topic, they can't opt out of the whole program. There's only 3 subject areas that they can opt
So
out
I'll
of.
tell you, that's a problem, because this language and this stuff, again, I know I got mocked the last time for saying it's infused with gender ideology. It is, it's in the entire thing. Whereas
Right.
Glencoe, which I thought was another good option, is you can opt your child out of that section. It will still be presented to children, but it's isolated, so you could opt your child out of that section, but they can be present for the rest of health. To me, that's a compromise. Whereas Health Smart, it's in the whole thing. And I think you're really, the other thing, when you say the inclusive language, I mean, some of the language they're using, like, we use on an individual basis. I don't walk in and call everybody, you know, they. It's someone says, this is my preferred pronoun, this is what, you know what I mean? So to use this language generally with everyone, I don't think is appropriate, especially with children. And then I just wanna, the lessons in Health Smart, you brought up a point, are not edible. Whereas Glencoe, they are edible. And the other thing, when you say you trust the people that research that, I question that, because after the first meeting, I asked to borrow the books. I pulled out all of these lessons. I liked Health Smart at the first meeting, that was my choice, until I looked at it.
Didn't you come up to me at the end of the meeting and urge me to adopt the Glencoe curriculum, Susanna?
I asked you to look at both of them, but what I
Well,
wanna finish.
You asked me specifically to adopt the Glencoe curriculum. I remember that very
I
clearly.
said I like Glencoe, but I would ask you to look at all of the lessons, but what I wanted to say, finish my thought was, Ms. Clark didn't know these lessons were here. You were embarrassed when I showed you these lessons, you didn't even know we were there, so I wonder how well was this even vetted? Because you didn't know these lessons, these are the first time you saw them when I brought them to you. We had a long conversation about a lot, and yet you still pushed it forward to parents. So I do question how thoroughly this was vetted. Where did it come from? Did RIDE want this curriculum? I don't understand. You came up with Glencoe too, but you keep pushing Health Smart. Is there a financial incentive?
Yes.
I don't understand.
If I may, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Of course.
All right, first of all, is there a financial incentive? Are you
There
gaining
is
some
not.
kind of benefit by selecting Health Smart?
No,
Okay, is there anybody in this school department who's gaining some kind of financial benefit or personal, professional benefit by adopting the Health Smart curriculum?
no.
Okay.
Are the
Ms.
lessons
Panero.
editable?
They are editable in the fact that all curriculum lessons are editable. We're providing the platform for students to have a common language and a common lesson instruction to provide commonality across the
But
district.
that's not true with Health Smart. They say they're
Ramona,
not
It's in
editable.
print on their website, you can't edit them.
I wanna ask you another
Just
question.
like every curriculum, we have already clearly said we have 10 to 15 lessons that we have to teach. There is no way we are teaching this curriculum page by page by page. In that sense, they are editable. The teachers have gone through in the areas that came out of the open forum that people had questions about and identified the key slides, the activities they want to do. They have been as specific and clear cut as you can be because that was the concern. They wanted to know which lessons, how are you going to teach it? So in the additional documents within, teachers have gone through and said slide by slide, I would use this slide, I would use this page out of the workbook. Yes, we're using some of the pages of the workbook, we're not buying them as consumables to keep from parents. We're using a few of the handouts here and there. But we have gone through and they have followed the whole entire scope and sequence for the human sexuality pieces and the STD, HIV, disease prevention section to allow that. I find it interesting that we've been said that we don't open for discussion, yet Ms. Tingley just said that I've spoken with her extensively about this curriculum.
Me, not other parents.
not me.
Because I sought you out.
I have spoken with any parent who wanted to meet with me about this. I've met several times in this room to share the curriculum and have people peruse it and look through it. I've
But
never,
nobody even opened the book last time. And the parents.
I didn't open the
We
book,
had
or
this
you
meeting
didn't open the book?
2 times at 4 o'clock on a workday. Do you know how hard it was for me to get here? If you really want parents involved, you have it at 6 or 7 o'clock when they're done with work and they can get there. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
I
make
do-
it.
And I do know what you mean. This is the first time that we've had a committee, which is the majority of the committee are not school department employees. I think that's great. One of the things we did run into was when we always had the meetings at 4 o'clock. We continued with that only to find out we were having these hiccups. The meetings going forward next year are not gonna be at 4 o'clock. I'm gonna be surveying the committee to find out what's best for everybody, so that we can move forward on that, because I want everyone to be here. So that is something that we ran into, so that's being corrected, thanks.
Jody, I know Pam had her hand up, and I just,
Keith,
before,
yeah.
I may be asking a question for you, and I apologize, but she raises a point about the possibility of compromise. What is your reaction to that?
Of course, anything is possible. If that is the determination, then we could move. I mean, it was originally that is a standalone product, it could be used. What I would say is, sometimes when you do that, you lose the scope and sequence of the curriculum, because you're picking and choosing things. We have to be very careful that we were following the standards that we've been given to adopt according to RIDE. Your other question was around, so not being adjustable, that is not true. We will not be doing the whole program cover to cover. Teachers have identified the key slides that they would like to use, they've identified the key workbook pages, and we've done all that work. As you mentioned, we didn't do it for everything, because we didn't wanna move forward spending hours upon hours of identifying all of those key lessons for the other topics until we were sure that this was the curriculum we were moving for. So the team prioritized based upon the open forum, just moving forward with those topics that were discussed at the open forum that people wanted to know more about.
Did you wanna follow up, Pam?
I do, cause this, I understand editable and I don't, so I'm just gonna beat a dead horse here.
Sure.
So you have the slide that the company provides
Sure.
as the lesson. Can you make any additions to that slide? Can you add words to the slide?
No, not to the slides, but we've selected the slides that we would use.
I know, so there's no way to say body with a vagina
Right.
/ female reproductive
I really wish
system.
that the health teachers were here to support, because I don't want you thinking this is fully coming
No,
from me.
I
I
get that.
gathered a team together of experts.
I totally
I am not a health
understand that.
curriculum expert.
I am just trying to understand that specific
Sure,
detail.
they clearly identified at the last meeting that it would be, a terminology could be used back and forth. We do that
But you
oftentimes in
No, that's
education.
I know,
But as far as the slide, no, you couldn't change the
You
slide.
couldn't change what's actually the professional lesson that's being presented is going to have that headline and it will not have female reproductive system. Is that correct?
Correct.
You mentioned that you consult, I'm sorry.
Because this might help I don't know if it'll help clarify. So, in my districts, we have the Glencoe curriculum in our district, it's 14, I'm sorry, about 10 years old now. But, all right, RICAS, when you proctor RICAS, you have to read a script and you can't deviate from that
Correct.
at all, right? When you teach a class, a course, whatever it is, the textbooks help, but from a textbook or an educational company like Glencoe, I mean, they're trying to get the biggest population possible with this information. However, it's up to the district, the classroom,
Mhm.
to make it or tailor it toward their
Sure.
specific population. So in North Kingstown, I'm speaking from my district, we're allowed to take a curriculum and pull anything we want from it that we do. We have our own little consensus within the health and phys ed department, and then we either use what's there or make our own copy of it
Mhm.
to interject or update, because, I have 10-year-old curriculum where some of it's out of date. I adapt it to my population with, my district statistics and why we rationalize why it's important we're teaching this. And so do the teachers have professional discretion to modify it to what they need for the students?
Those would be the documents you see that they've
Right.
worked on for several days in professional development sessions out of their classrooms to come up with that more detailed agreement as a high school staff, as a middle school staff. How are we going to how are we gonna use these materials to teach these topics?
So you would view as whether HealthSmart or Glencoe, it's a guide, not a script.
Correct.
Health Smart's a script. It
I
even
understand
says
that, I understand that,
Glencoe,
but,
you can pick question by question and interchange them. Health Smart's
So
Let's
specific.
let
it might be-
Jody,
Let her
let's
finish.
let Jody
So you're saying
answer the
that-
curriculum questions, please. Could you handle that, Jody?
Sure, a lot of the curriculums that are coming out have scripted things, just like our Wit and Wisdom has a very scripted, students say this, teachers say this. That is not the expectation. The expectation is that, you know, if you were a beginning teacher to pick that up, there's something as a guideline for you to go off of, so that you're, but the expectation is not that we have robots teaching these and they're reading line by line by line. The expectation is they're using the materials, they have a common set of materials, scope and sequence, that the standards are addressed in the same way, and they use their professionalism when the student's in front of them to move that lesson forward.
That's not what Health Smart says. It says specifically.
Blurting
they-
out does no good for the discussion.
You're lying to people.
Because
Okay,
it's in
Health
the
Smart says
curriculum, that is
specifically,
no one
they must follow a
applies.
script. Specifically.
Specifically, please,
Can I ask you about Glencoe? So
Sure.
you're saying that like the teacher could go in and change the slide? So each teacher could do something different? So then there wouldn't be anything like concise that the whole, everyone's teaching the same thing, do you know what I'm saying? Like
The main focus when we began this work was that it was clear from the PE health teachers that they wanted a common base curriculum.
that they all
They
use
wanted
the same-
common slides, they wanted common activities, they wanted common research and literature to read. They were all pulling different things from different places. That is the point in where we're going. So we chose not to go the route of pulling that together. We thought it was very time consuming and taking teachers out of the classroom. We wanted to do an adoption. So we looked at these two sets of materials. And the teachers deemed that the Health Smart ETR curriculum was more aligned with the way that students would respond. It had more up-to-date health concerns addressed. I do wanna say that I did go back, and yes, you are right, rather than using this word social media, which is what ETR used, there is one lesson on cyberbullying and one lesson on online safety. So I do wanna say I did look that up, and you are correct. I went through the index, looked for social media, thinking that was kind of a big topic, and it was not listed anywhere as social media. Same thing with the vaping versus e-cigarettes. You know, so there are some differences in the common language being used between the two curriculums. We just have to acknowledge that. The teachers who are certified to teach health felt like these materials provided more of a basis and a way that students would interact and learn in a better way. There are lesson suggestions in Glencoe, but the majority of it is reading with some suggestions of some activities and like, read this, answer these questions, and it's a different way of teaching, I guess, if you will. So
But
yes,
Health Smart, like, sends kids out on college hunts, contacting health clinics with strangers. I mean, I don't think parents, those are the lessons parents were concerned.
but
And
have
yet
we
the most-
selected those lessons in the scope and sequence of
I didn't know,
what-
cause you didn't list all of your lessons.
We
So,
did.
and you didn't have, last time I was here, you did not have every single lesson, and you promised parents at the first
No.
forum, you would list every single lesson, and the most egregious one that most parents had the problem with was the body with the vagina, and that's the one you picked, which I'm really surprised.
Because that's the one about the human anatomy.
Right,
So we
female
felt like that was
anatomy.
important to
Female
cover
anatomy.
human anatomy
Our
in
kids
a
have more
health
than
lesson.
vaginas and
That's
penises.
right.
The teachers clearly said when they were here last week that
That's
they
not
would
the
be
truth,
using
though.
both.
That's not
Liar.
the truth.
You're arguing, and that's not what the purpose of this is. We're supposed to
it
be
is.
having a
I'm
discussion.
telling you what she told parents at the meeting. They were told that they would know. That
Susanna,
was the worst
Susanna,
lesson.
I understand what you said, I heard what you said.
She's
I wanna ask
voicing
you
her
something.
opinion, let her speak.
Ramona, you're not on the committee.
I don't care,
Well,
I
you
wanna
know
hear
what,
what she
if you
has
don't
to
care, then
say.
maybe you should walk out of here,
I'd like
because
to
you know
hear
what?
what Susanna Tingley has to say.
Susanna had an opportunity to speak. I wanna
All
have
you
a
do is
discussion, not an
cut
argument.
people off when they have a
Dr.
difference of
Clark.
opinion. Let her finish, because
Dr.
she's
Clark.
bringing up good points.
Dr. Clark, is there any teacher that you have consulted who feels that the Glencoe curriculum is superior or would prefer that this school district adopt that particular curriculum?
Not in those that were on this committee to review
I beg your pardon?
not on those that were on the committee to review the two.
Okay, how many
curriculums.
members were on that committee?
you'd have to look at the first list on my, about 12 or 15.
All right,
Teachers?
Correct.
Cause I know health teachers that were not in favor of it and they won't speak out against it
No one has
because
vocalized
of their
that.
jobs.
It's not on here.
and I take it, Susanna, you're not willing to identify who
No,
these teachers
no,
are?
I wouldn't do
Okay.
that.
Well, it makes it very difficult to
Well, it
verify
does,
what
but
you have
look,
to say.
look how untreated, you think someone's gonna put a professional job on the line?
Everyone knows
Respectfully,
what you're
Susanna,
doing.
nobody ordered you to sit over here. You could sit with anywhere
but
you
it's-
wanted, and
it's
no one's
very
trying to
clear
isolate you.
That you cannot have a different opinion in your school department.
No, you can have a different opinion, that's why we're having a discussion.
Lydia,
Why don't you-
Okay,
go
I'd
ahead.
love to hear your
I'm
opinion.
gonna get off of this particular, I'm just gonna express my, opinion, as a member of the committee and as a parent of two, an elementary and a high school student here in North Kingstown. And I will say that, I know that there's been some comments about feeling, like your opinions are unwelcome, but I find it very scary to speak when you guys speak out and seem to be yelling a lot. And so I'm nervous speaking now not because of that. And I'm putting that on the table because I probably won't be very articulate. But I find it a hostile environment. But what, something that was said earlier, and it doesn't matter who said it, but, was about the language in the entire curriculum. And, one of the things that I think is important is we're talking about young people who are still figuring out who they are, and to presume that the only people who use different pronouns than he and she are the ones who declare that, or the ones who might be questioning their pronouns, for example, are the ones who declare it, is doing a disservice, I think, as educators to these young people, to provide them a safe space. We're not calling, in terms of, if I assume if the rest of the curriculum assumes a binary, he, she, in the entire curriculum, and it just explores difference in the one curriculum, I don't know that that's really doing justice for those young people who are trying to figure things out and understand. I don't think by saying a body with a vagina or a body with a penis excludes anybody, but if I'm sitting,
It excludes boys and girls.
Why don't you make one more comment, there's gonna be a recess.
If I'm a young person who, presents to the person next to me as a female, as a girl, cause I'm wearing a dress and I have long hair and makeup, but I have a penis in my underwear, do I not deserve to understand, about some of the things that my body might be going through? I don't know that, it's necessary for us to, force those delineations. I don't think we are forcing it by keeping it open-ended. It's not like we're calling everybody just bodies. We are saying that vaginas exist, penises exist, that's biology. But we're not, so I would like to be reflective and aware of the fact that not every person in elementary, middle, high school, college, and even post-college has a full kind of understanding of where they fit into the world with regard to gender and sexuality and stuff. But one thing that I think I've learned and a lot of young people are teaching us is that it's not binary. It's not so black and white.
Yes,
that,
it is.
Ramona,
that,
please.
that,
She's try-
and
she
if we
already
look at
mentioned-
the,
Hang on one second, please. She's expressing herself hesitantly. and I-
Sadly, she's
No,
trying
not
to
All right, we're gonna have a
erase
recess, I'm calling a recess.
binary, the fact that
That's it,
sex
no.
is binary. Do you understand? That is a biological fact.
I
Anybody wanna step
understand.
out? I'm not gonna
As far
participate
as
in this.
listening goes.
We recess for 10 minutes.
Yeah, turn it off. Okay, thank you, everybody, and we're back. And I know Pam, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanna, you know, there are people who body of a vagina, it doesn't feel inclusive to me. And we can agree to disagree on that, and I'm fine with that. But I think, you know, in times where we've now used parents, guardians, families, multiple words, so we don't offend anyone, this is a time where we need to use multiple words to include everybody. And I don't know how to do that, I'm sorry.
I have a question.
I just, you know, as much as you think body of a vagina is inclusive, I don't think it is. And I'm sorry I feel that way, but I'm a strong female. I was raised a strong female. I'm a proud female. I'm a mother. It's the best thing I've ever done. And I want my kids to hear those words in addition to others. I'm not opposed to teaching gender identity and gender ideology, but to me, those words are not inclusive of how I feel and my family and others I've talked to too. It's not just me. So I'm sorry, but I haven't been convinced that Health Smart, I don't know, I just haven't been convinced yet that that's really what's gonna happen. The letter that my 5th grader got for his health lesson said he is going to be learning about the male and female reproductive system. And then he's gonna go in 6th grade and learn about, you know, whatever, I know it might not be in 6th grade, it's gonna be different. So, and I know you're doing K through 5 too, but we'll have the same agreement. So that's how I feel.
Thank you. I have a question for you. How much does Glencoe cost and how much does Health Smart cost? Do you know?
So there are many different options when purchasing curriculum. It's not an easy as here's one set price for one and one set price for the other. It would make a huge difference as to whether we buy 2 class sets for each middle school and how many class sets, 2 for the high school, whether we buy a book for every child. There's a lot of things that go into effect, and that is for this curriculum. So because they are larger textbooks, do we buy the digital platform, do we not? So there's so many things, it's very difficult to give a bottom line. So we had priced out the whole kit and caboodle for Glencoe with buying the digital, the books, the hardcover books that you see in front of you, plus the additional human sexuality book, plus all the teachers' manuals, and it was quite pricey. It came in, very high, so we had immediately said, okay, how can we change this budget?
You make your wish list.
About $125,000 if I remember correctly, just for 6 through 12. So then we looked, do we just go with the digital platform and not the books? That didn't,
Right.
the e-readers don't seem to be accessible to students, you're just reading the book online, what is the point? So then do we not go with the digital platform? When we looked at Health Smart, again, you can buy all the consumable workbooks every year, and every kid has a consumable workbook and they write in it and they, it goes back and forth, it goes home. That wasn't the option, the teachers don't see it being used, mainly because we're not using the whole curriculum cover to cover every year the way it looks here. It's, these are the 6 through 12. So then you're getting into, do we just buy the digital version of the slide decks of the online costs? So it's really, it's not comparable in the fact that this comes.
So is Health Smart 6 figures?
No.
Okay.
I have it right now under $10,000.
So why not just look for
Wait a
a
minute.
price on the online version of one?
I could, but as I just explained to you, it would be the e-reader that kids would be reading, which is
Yeah.
very difficult
Which
to
a
read
lot
a book.
of kids have though, for a lot of their books are only online. My son's history book is online.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
so it wouldn't really be anything they're not used to.
You could also just buy a class set that stays in the classroom. We've done that with our math textbooks. They don't go home. They use the digital version for home. I mean, there's many different ways to slice that. It's not an easy discussion. It's just what the 2 programs offer and what the teachers feel is the best fit of what we'll use of the resources.
Have you ever used 2 curriculums for one course of study?
In the current world of curriculum adoption, it is not something you usually suggest because the scope and sequences are not going to be aligned. In this case, you know, you can clearly see that the HIV, STD, sexual prevention, and the abstinence is kind of their version of 2 books, and Glencoe has a single version that's a standalone. Could they be interchangeable? I would want to have the teachers spend the time to go through that and see if they're interchangeable. I don't know that to be true.
In your experience, this is not something that is common or is
No.
routinely done?
No.
And would it be fair to say that if we were to select both, we're gonna pay for both? Is that correct?
It does not seem to be a way with the Health Smart to buy like one set. You buy them as a full set of 6, kind of the teacher's manuals, and a full set of 6, the teacher's manual. Glencoe, I
Joe, you
believe.
said under $10,000?
Correct. Because we are not buying the consumable workbooks, and we're not
Right,
buying the
yes.
student digital portal, we are only
Yeah.
buying the teacher access to the digital online and the teacher hard copies.
But you
Thank
could
you.
price that out for the same online for Glencoe.
All right.
The 125 for everyone.
Yes,
Is there-
yes, but you would still have to buy a set of the books or the digital books for every student. And in this curriculum, we wouldn't have to buy the digital portal at all for the students. Teachers would copy the sections that they wanted them to read. Does that make sense? Because we're not doing every lesson, so I wouldn't need a class set of all of those. We would just copy the sections we're doing. This, I guess you could do the same. You could just copy the lessons you were doing. It just, as you saw, it's a lot more print and copy than the Health Smart in the way that it's presented.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to say something? And I know you've had a chance, Lydia, I really appreciate, I know it wasn't easy for you to do that. Hey, we're all different, I get it. Is there anybody else who'd like to say something? Go ahead, Keith.
So one of the things I'm concerned about is if we select a program or a curriculum that the teachers are not supportive of, will they actually use it? Because teachers have a reputation for making things die that they don't like. So I don't wanna waste any money either. So I'm definitely open to compromise. I'm not hard set, but I want whatever we get gonna be used. And, you know, and these are, either one, you can adapt to whatever you need. So I'm not concerned about that. But I am concerned about getting something or agreeing to something based off of compromise, but the teachers really aren't gonna use it.
All right. Anybody else?
Can I just say one last thing?
Sure.
Which was, the one only thing that I didn't, because we went into recess and I didn't get to say, and I couldn't remember what it was, but now I remembered, which is that I just wanted to share in terms of the consideration, and we're talking about a whole health curriculum, not just sexual health. But since that's the area of a lot of concern, one of my big takeaways, I was at that same parent meeting about the curriculum at the high school in the media center, and one of the things that I heard a lot, and I know we all heard different things, as is normal, was a lot of concern amongst number of parents about the high rates of self-harm and suicide amongst our LGBTQ students. Not just in North Kingstown and Rhode Island, but that's a national, if not global, situation. And I do think that is weighed heavy on a lot of the folks that I was hearing speak up, in terms of the potential negative as well as positive impact for an inclusive curriculum, and in terms of those numbers, and I do know that related to other areas of health and wellness, like the LGBTQ community has much higher rates of vaping and other substance use, as well as the self-harm. Well, one could claim that vaping is self-harm, but I meant more like suicide. Anyway, I just wanted that to be thought about when we think about how we can have embrace an inclusive curriculum that supports positive health outcomes for our young people, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now at 5 minutes after 5 o'clock, and there is another item that's on the agenda. So at this point, I'm gonna call the question and ask for a vote. And I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna ask for all members of the committee who favor, and I'm not gonna forget about the compromise issue, but we have a specific motion that's on the table. All members who favor the adoption of the Health Smart curriculum, to say aye,
Or raise your hand.
or raise your hand.
How smart.
All right, so I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm gonna be 7. Trish, you have a vote?
Yep. Yes.
So that's 8-1,
2.
or I'm sorry, 8-2, excuse me, my apologies.
8-2.
I don't want to ignore what you said about the possibility of a compromise, but it strikes me that there's a lot more to this than just simply, we're gonna sit down and work this out. It may be that it'll be that simple, I don't know, but it will be something that will be addressed with the full school committee. Again, this is an advisory vote, and they'll be taking this up again, possibly as early as tomorrow. So, with that in mind, we have a wellness policy that has been provided to the membership. Copies were distributed. I know there have been some comments about it. Susanna, you sent some comments about it in an email yesterday. This is not one that requires a vote, I think, in the same way as a curriculum vote did. But I think that I'm going to make a motion to adopt the wellness policy, and if I can get a second, we can open it up to discussion.
I second.
There have got to be members of this committee that have comments that they want to make. I'm more than happy to have that discussion.
It's a very tiny thing, but under the definition section, food insecurity is listed twice.
Thank you. I didn't know that. I
I
told you.
And then I thought you had taken it out, and then I was like, oh no, you're right, it's still right there.
See?
Very essential,
Where are you? You said definitions,
on
page
page
2?
2 to 3.
You probably should take the last one out, because I think it's in alphabetical order. Right,
Yeah.
right, A, C, F, yeah.
Oh, no, it's fine. I look like they're trying to steal it, you know, like that's like that's what they do in Murder, She Wrote episodes, they put the thing on top of the whole movie. share a point of reflection?
Sure.
So, one of the things that, I deal with a lot of students who qualify for free or reduced lunch, or mostly free lunch, the reduced lunch population is much smaller. And one of the things that I liked about the updated policy is that while it does reference free reduced lunch, it doesn't look to me like it would need to be, amended should the legislation pass, with free for all. Is the intent to keep this, am I mistaken in that fact?
Karen, do we have any updates on that?
We do,
Oh,
and it
Oh.
was not included in
Oh.
the budget that the House Finance passed, so it does not look
So
like.
that's what I get for being out of the, not paying better attention.
No.
So it was just late Friday night.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Okay.
say, yeah, that's,
And I don't
Oh,
think that, I
that's
still
too
think it's
bad.
going to be ongoing
Okay.
till next year, so I
Mhm.
think.
Do you say you think something will bring up every year though?
as more states,
so-
yeah, I
Yeah.
think as more states
Okay.
sign on, yes.
Yeah.
Shall we get a consensus or?
I'd like to get a consensus. I know that, Susanna, you had some questions
Yeah,
regarding,
just
the.
Five and
the-
ten.
Social emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, it kinda sounds like a
Yeah,
vague,
definitely.
I can't
Thank
hear
you.
her. It sounds like a vague, like, to me, the language is not specific where it's measurable, enforceable, it's more like a statement, or, you know what I mean? Like, to be in a policy, it's like something you believe, but how are you measuring that? Under social emotional learning and health on page 5, and then educational outreach. On the same page as the last one.
You said page 5, right?
Yeah, for the social emotional.
Mm-hmm.
I read your comment, I was looking, in the email, and I was looking in this thing.
Yeah.
To try to figure out where you were referring to it, and I wasn't sure if this was where you stuck, and if it's not, then that's just, it's a big section, but in the middle of page 5, in the paragraph that starts, in order to establish,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure when we use the word measures, if we're like, measures, it definitely suggests something measurable, and I don't know if that's exactly what we mean. Do we mean, district shall initiate, maintain, and monitor activities, that will provide for, I thought maybe that was the hiccup, the word measures, but maybe
Yeah,
I'm
we
wrong.
don't say we're measuring, right.
Yes.
That's what I thought maybe you were stuck, not stuck on, that's a loaded term, I suppose, but you caught on, and I thought, well, what do we mean by that?
Jackie, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I know what I had mentioned at the last meeting is how is this gonna be attainable and, consistent in the schools?
Yes, and that is our next step, once we have this.
And I think you had
with the
explained that
admin-
broader,
Yeah,
yeah.
with the admin council, and just getting the feedback and starting an action plan.
So what is the action plan? That's what we had talked about.
The
What is the
action plan
to
is
support this?
meeting with the administration and the principals and just getting the ball off the ground, to be honest with you.
So you're saying we don't have to, like, when you meet with them, when we list out, like you're saying, like a measure of things?
Well, I feel
Yeah,
like we
there's,
should
one thing.
have that plan first before you put it in a policy. To me,
Well,
it leaves
if
a
we-
lot of vagueness.
The policy comes before the plan, with the principals, because this is going to be the playbook. We're going from 4 pages to 15
Yeah.
pages. So, which is actually, it's a very positive thing too. But also from these 15 pages, once the principals and the administration have it, then they're gonna be seeing it. And then from that, we're gonna find out what jumps out at you, what are our priorities, they know. And then from there, as we get into you know, the social and emotional, if that is the topic, okay, how do we go about this? They're gonna be talking amongst themselves as colleagues, different grade levels, and that's where we will have a strategic plan how to, get the wellness policy district-wide, and it's gonna be incremental
Will it
in order
go-
to keep it, for it to sustain.
Will then it go in the, like, the school improvement template?
Absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
because I know there's a
Yes.
section on
And
that.
so, and that's why, in some ways, it may seem like a broad brush, but that's because they're the experts, they're in the buildings, they know, they're gonna have their common items that are like, yes, this is important, this is something that was never in the policy, it's in there now, and there's a reason why it's in there.
So
So,
they know.
it's hard for me to get, to put specifics in.
So, in a sense, very more so you have a mission statement, right? So this is kind of like the mission statement for that particular topic, saying that there is gonna be a measure to monitor.
Yes.
And that's where the plan, so the plan comes,
Yes.
right, okay.
But that word can, obviously,
It's not just a word, I think it's more, like you said, the action plan, like to me, to put something forward, we just had a policy the other day that we put forward, but it wasn't enforceable, it wasn't measurable, so we had to pull it back again, revise it before it could be put into action.
Mhm.
So I honestly feel like these two sections, the mental health and the social and emotional, they're not ready to go into a policy, that we need to work on them a little bit more. That's the part of the policy I'm not comfortable with.
But you said, because what I was saying is it gonna be, so I'm on the school improvement team at my school. So I know there's like this form, the principals have to go, we actually, there sort of is a social emotional, and you have to list out, like, what does your school do for social emotional?
That's not
And
a
then-
policy.
Okay.
Can I speak, please? And so, but it goes to the school, but we have to show, like, it's measurable, like, each school might do something different. Is that how that will be implemented, is that it's gonna be part of the school improvement team, and then at the end of the year, obviously, the principals and the school get reviewed, did you do what you said you were gonna do?
And it's gonna evolve, just being
Right.
realistic.
But I was saying, wouldn't it
Yeah.
be different in every school, what the,
It-
what they're gonna do for
Depending on
these
where their priorities lie.
or even just for this certain activity, like Davisville and Wickford might do something different in Forest Park, or, you know what I mean? But that's what I was saying, I think that's how it'll get measured, and then, cause it goes back to the school department to review if they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Anita, you had something you wanted to say, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanna, I appreciate this, discussion, cause I think I understand that little section a little bit better, from the explanation, and so the way that I now read it is that it's our policy that the schools come up with these measures, that so we're holding we're saying, you need to have measures, and that's what the policy's saying. You need to initiate, maintain, and monitor measures that you can define
Right, but
because
they're-
you have different
They're a team
needs in your
yeah,
schools.
The
Okay.
elementary, they're
Yeah,
a team in
right,
itself, the
right,
middle,
right.
and
Which
the
makes
high
sense,
school team.
because even
Right,
within the
so-
elementary, you have different needs
And they're gonna
at
wanna,
different
they're
schools.
great team players, the team's gonna be still the team, because certain people have strengths
Yeah,
within the
yeah.
administration, it's like, oh, that's your hot button, good, and
Just
this
like
is
you have
my
for
hot
science
button.
and different subjects.
Yeah.
But that makes sense, so our policy is saying that they should have
Wait,
a plan and
An action
an
plan,
action.
yes.
That makes sense. I
And there
appreciate
probably is
clarification.
already some measurable data that, the YRBS, for example, that is student reported on a lot of these topics, as well
That's
as, rides, what are the reports that, come out that have social emotional, type, questions in them. So there's already some data
Right.
that I'm sure your schools are using.
I like what you said when you mentioned changing the word.
Yes.
The term measures here does not mean pull out my yardstick. It's, or, get, I don't see how you can administer
Yeah.
without knowing what a policy is to guide you. And I think that's what this is, the foundation is here, and then you set forth to achieve the goals that are set forth in the policy. And I appreciate that you feel like it needs to be more concrete, I don't read it that way, but, I don't think that this particular phrase makes
No,
sense.
it's not that, though, yeah.
Yeah,
I understand there's more to it, but I'd like to,
suggestion?
I'd like to make an amendment to it to substitute the word activities.
Yep. Got it.
Because it's almost saying to the schools, you have to pick activities, like, you're right, I like that word better than measure, because it's a little, like you were saying, like
Yes.
ambiguous, so they're actually, like, they might not think they have to do an activity or something specific around it, just that they need to pay attention to it.
Well, activities
Point.
also are things that, there's more information about what's, you know, if, as a parent, you've indicated, I'm not trying to speak for you, that you want to know what's going on, and activities are more, often these require to be in the school improvement plan and to appear in a more,
It's a better word.
yeah.
It's gonna- Yeah, that's what, Rob, did you?
Yeah, I would just add that, this is related directly to the draft of our new strategic plan, which we're waiting for feedback on from RIDE at this point. But I just wanna point that out, that, there are some metrics that we put in there, most specifically for chronic absenteeism. Because chronic absenteeism is a very strong indicator of social emotional health and student connectivity to school. And also we're looking at survey works data for that as well, to give us some, again, generalized feedback on the, you know, metrics that are aligned to the social emotional health of students. And so, while I agree that this is not necessarily a measurement in specific terms, I would also add the fact that there are ways that we can measure, like, the level of connectedness and belonging that students have in our school.
Go ahead, Pam.
For page 4B, members of the wellness committee responsibilities, I'm just wondering if there should be something about the health curriculum that, like, we just went through there, saying that we're consulted on the health curriculum, cause this was a big contention of mine in the original health policy. It didn't mention, wellness policy didn't mention anything about health curriculum, which way back in the fall, in our very first meeting, we were asked about health curriculum.
Okay.
And I said at this very table, I didn't wanna be a part of it because I didn't think it was explicit in our old wellness policy.
We are gonna have, as noted at the bottom, the curriculum director or a representative will meet to report biannually. So we're gonna have the curriculum director in here twice a year.
The last bullet, is it written like in a different tense or something? If I say members of the wellness
I don't
committee
consider it a
responsible-
responsibility, and I
no.
can drop it down on its own,
Oh, okay.
right here.
Hold on.
So the curriculum is going to be, obviously, with what we have all experienced this year, we're gonna have the curriculum as part of it's gonna be part of just the fabric of the wellness committee.
But this is where it says that the curriculum has to be aligned with the health education framework, and nothing, I don't know if there's something in there you wanted to specifically.
I'm just saying, it doesn't actually say that, you know, we're gonna vote on, like, we voted on which health curriculum to send up to the school committee. Like, where does it explain that in here?
How often does the
I have no idea.
No, I
I'm
was
just,
thinking,
Yep.
I'm sorry, how often does the curriculum come up? Like, every 3 years? I know for, like, this policy is gonna be every 3 years. I didn't know if you knew if.
The curriculum cycle,
Yes.
let me double check just to make sure I
Under,
have
on
my
page
facts right.
4, on B, it has what the responsibilities of the committee are. It's
Right.
not spelled out, but actually in the law, it does say to,
right,
Okay,
so should
so
it
we
be
can
referenced?
provide yes. Yes, I see what you're saying.
Because that was
for the
very
law.
confusing to me
Yeah.
when
And we
first
can add that in the
started
back,
this.
in the appendix.
What are we adding, like provide input on?
Actually, Karen's looking up.
Oh, with the actual language.
So
I think
on
it's
page
the same
4,
one as-
the law says, make recommendations regarding the district's health education curriculum and instruction, physical education curriculum and instruction, and nutrition and physical activity policies to to decrease obesity, enhance the health and well-being of students and employees. And that's right from the language in the law. So that could be added to page 4, section B.
Under B, yes.
Mhm.
And what was the law there,
The law is
Alright.
1621-28, so
21, 28.
RIGL 1621-28.
And I'll reference it that, and we have that in the back, anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll make a reference of that.
But that would,
Yeah, that would be,
Yep.
like, I think that should be.
spell it out that
I think
that's
that should be.
what this
Yeah,
committee,
right on there.
and
Making
again, it's not
recommendations
the voting
based on that
is
law.
only to make a
Right.
recommendation,
Right.
yeah, so this
Mhm.
committee doesn't have any,
Right.
Thank you, Pam. Is there anyone else? We're both.
No, I don't think what I think matters at this point. It's, more important that members of the public get a chance, and the members of this committee get a chance to speak. If that's, do I understand there's some consensus that these adjustments are, pretty much everybody's in agreement that we ought to be looking at these? Or making them?
Can we make them and vote on them now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put amendments,
I think we
yeah.
should.
Right.
So, would somebody like to make a motion to amend specific sections of the policy, and if you can identify them and then suggest your language, we could do it that way, I think.
I make-
Sherry, you wanna, did
Do
you
you want
want?
me to get, she said changing, alright, so I.
Or was it Lydia? I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter. Oh, I'll make a motion to change the word measures on page 5 to activities.
This is
Can I
with
do a
regard to
second?
social and emotional.
Social
Yeah,
learning,
section
yeah,
C.
section C, paragraph 3, line 2.
Right, I'll
I
second,
second.
okay, you'll second it, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now there's another, do we have another motion?
Yes,
Keith had his hand up.
okay.
I have a motion, I would like, I think I mentioned this before, I'd like to have physical activity its own section, because it's not part of physical education, it's a separate entity altogether. Oh, I'm sorry, page 12, section B, titled right now.
Yes, we had it separated. I don't know why this
Section,
is.
page 11, it's physical education.
No, but it was separated. I wonder if
yeah.
Joni.
well,
Let's
it's
see if we have a-
separated in here,
Oh, on
It's a-
page,
Well,
but
it
it's
says
not
B.
in the- in
You're
the
saying it
physical
should be its own topic, so it should be like 10.
physical activity.
on
Yeah,
page
on page
12,
11, it's
12 on-
physical education.
Correct.
And then it's physical activity.
Under physical education, sits,
Oh, oh,
of
oh.
letter B.
Oh, yes,
It's
it
gonna
would
be 10 then. Okay.
yeah. And
So
maybe
you wanna
then
remake
it
that
should
motion?
be,
Yeah, make that motion.
Yeah, because it's not, it's
Right.
completely separate from this education.
and then
Yeah.
should it be added to the table of contents?
Yes.
So that,
Yes.
yeah, it just says PE and,
So you could almost put like 10 physical activity and then like, A, activity breaks,
Breaks,
B,
Mhm.
before
Yeah,
and after
yeah.
school activities.
Got it.
And all the other numbers will move up one.
Right, yeah, cause it's not really, I know what you're saying. It's not like the PE teachers running the physical recess.
I'll second.
You know what that?
Okay, and Pam has seconded.
Further discussion with regard to this motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Suzanne, is that a no, or? are you- No, aye, okay, so that one's unanimous. Do we have another motion? Seem to recall
No, there was,
subsection 4.
Can you make the motion for that?
Oh, like adding it.
Page
On
4.
page 4.
Yep.
Section B.
So
To
Pa-
act.
you'd like to make the motion?
Oh, no, you can do
Okay.
it, cause you have the wording.
Okay, so I make a motion that on page 4, section B, members of the wellness committee responsibilities, that we insert the Rhode Island General Law 16-2128, where the committee members will make recommendations regarding curriculum and other items that are in the law itself. Do I have a second?
Second.
Pam seconds.
discussion? All right. Then we'll call the question. All in favor of making that amendment, please say aye. Raise your hand. Looks like it's unanimous again. All right. Bearing in mind those amendments, do I have a motion to forward this policy to the full school committee? Somebody's gotta make the motion, all right.
Move this to the school committee.
Okay, Keith seconds, all right, any discussion? Let's call the question, all in favor? Aye. All right, I think that's it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Lydia, right on that. All in favor?
I'm